House. Jacqui Heinrich is now questioning the press secretary.
Questions you would have to ask the campaign, and that is for them to speak to. What I will say is, what I can say is that as far as contrast, the contrast can't be more clear. It couldn't be more clear. If you think about 4 years ago, America was reeling. It was reeling in a once-in-a-generation pandemic. It was isolated from the world stage. Crime was up. The middle class was sidelined. We saw an insurrection on January 6th in 2021 that the former president led. And you think about today, where we are today, 3.5 years later, we're leading the strongest economy in the world. You hear the comeback stories in places like Milwaukee, to Dayton, to Scranton, Pennsylvania. And so we have done what people said we couldn't do, which is turn the economy around, turn the country around, be a leader on the world stage. And I think it's important for Americans to know and to be reminded where we were and where we are. And look, and the president certainly agrees with her. He agrees with her, her leadership, her policy decisions. He agrees with her when it comes to making sure that, we need to make sure that we stop what Maganomics, right? When you think about the $4,000 tax hike on working Americans. You mentioned Project 2025. That's something Republicans support. It is a radical idea, a radical policy agenda. That's going to do more harm to the American people.
Trump has repeatedly disavowed it, distanced himself from it.
And I said Republicans. That's something that Republicans support.
So this is not anymore being cast as something that Trump embraces? You just get that straight.
Look, you asked me a couple things. You asked me about the contrast, why she continues to make the contrast. You have to talk to the campaign on her strategy and how they're moving forward. I laid out for you the contrast could not be more clear where we were when we walked into this administration, when the president walked into the administration, where we are today. And that's because of this leadership of this administration, the Biden-Harris administration. Project 25 is something that Republicans, not going to speak to the president, the former president on this, but that Republicans are pushing. It's a radical idea. We're talking about more radical abortion bans, cuts to law enforcement, cuts to education, repealing Affordable Care Act, and repealing the Inflation Reduction Act, which, by the way, beats Big Pharma, which is something that many elected officials tried to do and couldn't get done. The Biden-Harris administration tried to get it done. That's what I can speak to, and that's just a reality. That's what's in that agenda. That's what Republicans are pushing, and that's what I can lay out for you.
To the campaign, but the campaign's not holding regular briefings. They don't have a forum, a Q&A forum like we have here, and you're the spokesperson for the Biden-Harris administration.
I just answered your question on why the contrast could be more clear. I just answered your question about Project 25 and what it's trying to do and what Republicans are supporting. I just laid that out.
I don't think it was the question I asked, but I do appreciate the answer.
No, you asked me why the vice president's campaign, the Harris campaign, is not doing X, Y, and Z. I said to you, you gotta talk to the vice president's campaign, and that is, there's the Hatch Act. I gotta be mindful to that. You know that. That is, I can't answer that question.
How about I try one different way?
But I can talk to contrast. You asked me about contrast, and I just laid it out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Does President Biden define Vice President Harris as a progressive Democrat?
Look, the vice president has been a critical partner to this president. All you got to do is look at the record and what we have been able to do in the past 3.5 years, the Biden-Harris administration has been able to do. You think about the economy, you think about health care, and you think about these really important generation-changing legislation that are now laws, obviously. I just talked about beating Big Pharma. That's important. That was the Inflation Reduction Act that only Democrats voted for. Now Republicans want to repeal. They want to take that away. Taking away lowering cost for the American people. And so, to be clear, lowering cost on medical care and pharmaceutical drugs and also energy bills, right? That's two really big part of the Inflation Reduction Act. The president is not going to be labeling the vice president. She has her policies that she is, obviously, that he's in line with. that she has put forth in the past week or so. He supports her. He believes in her leadership, and that's what I can share with you.
We are allowing for a contrast with Trump, but not a contrast with other Democrats, because Senator Bernie Sanders, for instance, said that he still views her as a progressive Democrat. He said that she's, in fact, not abandoning her ideals, but making a pragmatic play toward the center to win the election. And that sends a chill down the spine of some people who might be in the middle or to the center right, considering her, and when she's been trying to position herself as a more moderate figure now than she was in 2020. Where does she stand exactly?
So, first of all, the senator is going to speak for himself. That's for him to speak to. I'm not going to get into I agree or disagree with him. What I can tell you is this president believes in her leadership and believes in her bold policy agenda. That is something that the president is in line with her on, right? And we're talking about strengthening the middle class. That's what we believe her bold policy agenda continues to do. And that's important. You hear the president talking about building economy from the bottom up, middle out, and strengthening the middle class. We're in line. More economic opportunity. The president wants to see that. And we're talking about like tax cuts for working people, fighting corporate pricing gouging, lowering costs, having the wealthy pay their fair share. We're in line. We're in line with what the vice president is putting forth. Her bold policy agenda to make sure that we do not leave people behind. I'm not going to stand here and label the vice president. The senator has every right to say whatever he wants to say. What I can say is the president agrees with her bold policy agenda and her leadership.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.